On my end. There we go.
Welcome to Hee Haw, starring Mark Owen and Roy Clark.
There's never really been a show quite like that since then, huh?
I'm Black. I'm Roy. Hee-haw's back. Oh, boy. Let's go. Right now.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the ZimmCast. I seem to be blank here. Are we all there? Well. Didn't mean for that to go on, but here we go.
That was what's his name? Not Jerry Rice. What was that man's name? Well, from Smokey and the Bandit.
Jim Stafford?
No.
Jerry Reed?
Jerry Reed. That's it.
There we are.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, come on in. Come on in. Don't be afraid. Hit that like button. Even though we showed you a little bit of hee-haw, don't take offense. Come on in. A little bit of hee-haw never hurts anybody. And I was going to do a topic tonight about politics, and what better way to refer to politicians than to open with a jackass on hee-haw.
That's treating them kindly.
I would say the views and opinions aren't expressed by everyone, but I'm pretty sure that we're all pretty much
in unison on that one. Yep, can't argue with that. No. All right, here we go. We're going to run a little opening, and then we'll start this show. Let's do this one today. Here's the quickie. Warning. The following program is rated TVMA DLSV and is intended for mature audiences. Expect adult expletives, adult situations, and video clips of people you might find offensive. The opinions expressed in this podcast are entirely the responsibility of the person speaking or typing, and in no way meant to reflect the opinions of the Ragin 2 Podcast Network. No children, small pets, floppy titties, or Russian bots were harmed bringing this podcast to you. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Why? Because fuck them, that's why.
Absolutely. Dave is always right when it comes to that matter.
That's what Zaslav is saying today, right?
We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about politics because there's so much going on. Every once in a while, you get these weeks that everything starts popping and there's all this stuff going on to talk about. There's a Vine article I still want to pull up that I had in my timeline today that we need to discuss, and other stuff that we need to talk about. So we're going to get to that. Hey, over there, hit that like button, hit that love button. We know you're out there. Come on in, have a seat. Next 2 hours, we're going to talk comics. We're not going to talk that much about politics, believe me. And it'll probably be all politics that you already agree with anyway. So come on in. I don't like talking politics. I don't tune into comic book podcasts to listen to politics.
There's three things that are rude to talk about: politics, religion, and sports. Let's get to the point where we need to make them four, because there might be comics in there pretty soon.
Well, no. Well, let's hope not. Sports, I totally understand. Sports. Oh. Anyway, you would have to convince me that there was actually sport, I guess, in sports anymore. That I up here in Michigan, where I'm from, our Lions is our major football team, and if you know your football, you know how well the Lions run, so you automatically feel sorry for me. I'm not much of a sports nut, but I am, and I have watched enough of these Lions games to realize those refs got to be getting paid off somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
My opinion, only my opinion. Nothing I can prove.
And I know
Where's-
nothing that you're talking about because
Where's
I
that
don't
been?
know a
Yeah.
damn thing about sports.
Just
But
shake
it
your
just-
head, say yes.
Yeah.
It's- I
Yeah, it
promise
just
you're
seems so miraculous that when the game seems to be going the Lions' way, the refs make a negative call that works against them, and they end up losing by 3 points. So it just seems to be a constant. Facebook user in the house. Hey, Facebook user, go over to the Indie Comics Network, subscribe, and join that chat so we know exactly who you are, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of anonymous Facebook users out there. And we want to say hello to you directly. We appreciate you listening. And
Absolutely.
we appreciate everybody subscribing over there. We're working really hard to grow our numbers organically, which means we're not using Russian bots for this show. We're not throwing in fake views and all that. We're trying to be as honest as possible. And
Oh, yeah.
Facebook user understands. Thank you very much. Gave us the okay sign. I saw Biden give that same okay sign earlier today, and I said, that's not a sign you want to use. Somebody's been triggered. Willie draws. Willie J draws. Watched Hee-Haw with my grandparents when I was a youngster. Yes, sir.
Oh,
Same
boy.
here.
Same here.
Just scratching that nostalgia itch every once in a while. And like I said, we were talking politicians or politics. We'll do it lightly. And the first thing that popped into my mind was that jackass that opens the Hee-Haw show. I don't know why. It's the way it works. Come on in, everybody. I am your host. I am Randy Zimmerman. You can call me Zim. Please call me Zim. Please just don't call me late for dinner. I'm on the ZimmCast at gmail.com. You can always reach me there. I'm always interested in your emails, always interested in your suggestions, even your critiques about this podcast that we do, where we try to talk about the comic industry on a serious note and a more opinionated light. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Also join, and I put out a lot of links today, and here's who we have. Joining us today is C. Michael. C, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm C. Michael Lanning, independent artist. I'm a penciler and inker on Arrow Comics Calico of Shard with this guy right here, writing and creating. I'm also a show coordinator over on Dispatches from Outside the Box, where we scour the corners of geekdom to inspire you to create outside the box. Yes, absolutely. I have my copy around here somewhere.
Book right there. Yeah.
Also,
Joining us tonight is
Ooh.
Mr. Mitch Rogers. Mitch, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mitch Rogers. I'm a 14-year veteran of the indie comics world. I'm the creator of the Boger horror comic book series, which you can find online and in print. And this little guy who keeps licking my face at inopportune times, my dog Champ.
It's Dog Champ. And if you were betting that Scott Rosema would be on the program, you still might get it. He's just not here yet, but the links have been sent. So also out to a number of other people. You're welcome to join in too. If you know who I am and have me on your Facebook and have the capabilities to StreamYard, I'd love to have you on the show and get your opinion. As long as I can put up with you, I'll bring you in. So let's do
I do have
that.
a question. If
Sure.
Scott Rosema shows up like a minute before the end of the show, do I still win?
It all depends on what time you have him showing up.
Oh, we're in that kind of a pool. Oh, okay.
It's that kind of a pool. It's every quarter hour.
Hmm.
So that's when we bet that Scott Rose. Nobody has the first quarter hour on the sheet. Nobody.
That's a sure loss.
Exactly. That's why nobody votes. Empyrean Voles in the house. Empyrean, happy to see you. Wait, can we super chat? $5, no wait, against Scott Rosema. We could, if we could take super chats. We're working our way up to it. That's why we want to grow our numbers organically. We got the views. We got enough people. We got people watching us
Oh, yeah.
on a regular basis. The views are great. We just need those subscribers. So if you're watching us now, run over to the Independent Comic Network, used to be Ragin 2, and join. Subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Hopefully soon we'll be able to take that tip box as well as super chats.
Yeah.
Empyrean, glad you're listening. Comics More New Jersey. has thrown up a link. Is that still us?
That's still us, yeah.
It's
all of
Indie
our
Comics
links.
Network and Ragin 2 Network still.
Yeah, it's a Facebook user asked where they're supposed to go. Over there to YouTube.
Indie Comics Network, right there. Go over to Indie Comics Network. We're going to call it ICN so that we can sound official, big. But we
Sounds
had
like
to
the
call it
government,
something else in order to get up on that Google hit line. So, and we are about indie comics. Just about every show on this wonderful network is about.
Oh yeah.
Imperium says he admits I love Scott Roseman.
Yeah,
We all do. That's why we pick on him so much. He never seems to get around that first quarter hour though. Hail, Agent Zero. Hail.
All right. What's up, Agent
You
Zero?
want a link? I'll send you a link. Send me a PM over on Facebook. You're welcome aboard. Been a real interesting week for comics. Real interesting week. And it's
more
so,
interesting.
it's so fascinating. And I know we talked about language last episode and about how you should watch your language and how we talk about normies and people dealing in the real world. And we really need to stop doing that. But I'm going to do it because there's such an interesting contrast out there in the real world, out there in politics right now that just dovetails right in with what you're seeing in comics right now. It's amazing. So we just passed, Biden just passed the Inflation Reduction Bill, which actually adds more money to the coffers and is pretty much exactly the opposite of what it said. But he's trying to put this Band-Aid over top of everything and look like more of a hero in order to gain more votes, because they know in November they're really going to have a hard time keeping the people that were there, specifically the Democrats, because inflation is up and gas is up and all of this. And they're grasping desperately at a Supreme Court decision that they can spin wrong in the media and misrepresent and literally take it out of context in order to try to gain their base against women's rights. Well, anybody who's been out there looking knows that Kansas was a very conservative state, just passed a pro-abortion bill by the voters in their primary. And that's the way it's supposed to go. That's the way the Supreme Court decision has laid down. None of these silly politicians that say they're pro-life or pro-abortion or any of this have any real effect over those decisions because of the Supreme Court decision that nobody wants to represent correctly. All it did is negate the Roe versus Wade decision.
Right. Just send it right back to the states.
Which I was told is really actually when AOC was asked about how she felt about Roe versus Wade, she said, well, all I know is that's the two-way that it takes the immigrants to cross the river.
Oh my God.
But anyway,
that's
what that Supreme Court decision did is that it took the federal level decision for abortion and turned it back to the states. That's why you had a bunch of these states suddenly lean back on their previous abortion or anti-abortion bill levels. So suddenly, and the media spun it like, oh, Roe versus Wade was a catastrophe. And all of these states suddenly have anti-abortion bills that have just sprung up. Well, those are the bills that are already on the books that the Roe versus Wade decision negated in the first place. In order to change those, the voters have to get coordinated, run a petition, however their state laws run it, and put it up to the vote to the voters to really decide. So these people that are coming in going, oh, if you vote for so and so, they're going to take away all of your women's rights. That's not how it works. I've tried to explain that to a number of people, and it's like talking to a brick wall. So there's no sense in discussing it any further. It has nothing to do with comics except, and I'll get around to that in just a minute. Now, if you look, and again, we're probably going to get shadow banned by YouTube for this broadcast, just so everybody knows. If you don't see us on the recommended list and you want to watch us later, go over to the Independent Comics Network and watch the show there. It should still be there, hopefully. YouTube will let us go. So I'm not talking about anything. If you subscribe, I'm not going to be talking about anything that I haven't already watched a video on YouTube about. So hopefully that'll keep us going okay. Anyway, also in politics right now, you see the inflation bill just passed. You saw today Biden interrupted, much to my wife's chagrin, interrupted the last 15 minutes at General Hospital to announce that he's going to forgive a bunch of student loan debt. You know, amazing that he does it
Forgive.
now. Just a couple of months right before that election kicks in. Please like me. That's what he's saying. Please like me. Here's $10,000. Vote for my people. And you can take that
for debt forgiveness.
our debt forgiveness. Yeah, only for certain people.
You're welcome, by the way. 'Cause I'm gonna have to
Amazingly,
pay for it.
that particular block, yeah. Instead of doing the logical thing, which would make him a bigger hero, change the interest schedule on those bills in order to lighten the burden, because right now they charge them like a credit card.
Yeah.
And that all that interest is compounded monthly. And when you have a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 bill, that's a hell of a lot of interest.
All right.
And right now, a lot of these guys that are in this gerbil wheel, just trying to keep up with the interest, let alone cover any of that debt, because that's the way the interest is secured. If they would have changed the interest system and slowed the interest way down, they would have become bigger heroes, and it wouldn't have cost us any money. I mean, it would have cost the government money in the long run, but in the short term, everybody would have been happier, and you'd have seen more of that debt that these college people are responsible for actually get covered, instead of them trying to cover their ass in just the interest all the time. But that's a whole nother story. We're not here to talk about that. Also, you look at what's been happening with this, because I'm doing a book right now. I'm working on a graphic novel about my situation over the last 6 months. So I'm watching everything that has to do with the bug still, and everything, because I was 6 months, in case you didn't know, 6 weeks on the respirator, 6 months in physical therapy. I'm still not absolute 100%. Really close, so getting closer every day. But yes, I have not completed my profile yet, says Agent Zero Comments. Well, I don't know if you have to finish a profile in order to come in. If you want to come in, Justin, just let me know. The stuff with the bug has been really fascinating this last week, because you saw two major things happen. The lady from the CDC, the head of the CDC, said, "I can't believe the organization or bureau or whatever, the governmental branch that was under my direction, so mishandled this job. So I'm going to go through and do a reboot from there. I'm going to do an audit from the ground floor up. We're going to find out where we made mistakes. People are going to get
Canned.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of them sacked. That's the word. Those people are going to get sacked, just like in Monty Python's Holy Grail.
Now that the pandemic's in its death throes, they're going to be.
Now that they've made all of these mistakes about protocols and all of this, well, it's this when it was that, literally. There's been mistakes, and I'm going to find out who did them, and I'm going to sack those people. And really, she's doing it just to save her ass.
No, I think he's quitting at the end of the year, isn't he?
No. You're I'm talking about the head of CDC. Next up is here Fauci.
God Emperor Fauci.
Getting it. Anyway, that's too much. I said hair Fauci. Anyway, he's getting out in December, and he knows why. He knows why he's getting out in December, because if you've been watching any of even the slightest reports from some of these politicians that are on the right side, they're like going, well, we all get in there and we're going to see him soon anyway, in front of Senate hearings and congressional hearings, and we're going to find out what the hell, which they should have done. I don't know, 3 years ago, back when the bug first started up, and they were figuring out that the information that they were feeding everybody didn't seem right. And you had all these doctors in the meantime, all these doctors that were delicensed because they were running around saying it's the flu. It's just a flu. Treat it like a flu. There needs to be herd immunity. There's all these things that you should be doing, but for whatever reason, the protocols that first come out are exactly the opposite, and they're wrong. And all those people got into trouble. We'll come to find out they were all 100% right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Dr. John Ioannidis, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a guy who has basically made a career on finding medical fraud, and finding like medical studies that where the results were fraudulent. He got in trouble for speaking against the narrative. He's
Imperium Vol says, you ever notice Fauci looks a little like Batmite?
Yeah,
maybe in size. I don't know. Anyway, Willie Draw says, thanks, man. Empyrean says he just followed Willie. He's chasing after Willie. Anyway.
Wow.
But anyway, evening all. Joe D. McPhee is in the house. Joe, you want in? We're going to be done with politics here in a second. If you're home, send me a link or send me a PM on Facebook. I'll send you a link. You can come in. Love to have you on board. Marion Vol says, Jason Willie. Here we go. Anyway, let's stop talking about that. We all know what's happening. Anybody who's been following this stuff sees it for the clown show that it is, and is able to look behind the curtain and point at the little wizard guy pulling them levers and telling everybody else not to pay any attention to the guy behind the curtain, because you need to be watching over here where the big head is. Watch that big head. So what's all this got to do with comics, right? Guess what we're getting? Wildcats is coming back. Jeff Johns is coming back to Justice Society. There's a 7-part Batman story by Mark Silvestri coming out through three big projects suddenly coming out from DC that should attract anybody that's been reading comics since the 90s.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Well, according to Wes over at Critical Thinking, we won't pull up that video because that just gives him more attention. And it's not that he's not a good person, but I think he's right only about 80% of the time, maybe. But a lot of his opinions are his opinions, so he's entitled to those. But some of the information that he gives out is a little, that's also part of the problem of the industry. Maybe we'll cover that this episode. Maybe we'll cover it another episode, where all of this negativity out there is really hurting us. Even if it does give these idiots, there are these people that have video channels, extra hits because everybody loves trolling. A lot of that's not good for the industry. Some of it's constructive. Some of it's necessary. Some of it needs to be pointed at and laughed.
And some of it's just old now.
Well, a lot of these guys, in my opinion, are really starting to become more bitter and more grumpier than I am.
Oh my gosh.
And that's a problem. To me, I'm like, okay, heard it before. Click, Wes says he knows, and this has also been fascinating to watch in the news media. Wes reports that he knows somebody that works in accounting up at the DC offices, and Zaslav's people, not Zaslav himself, but Zaslav's accountants. Hey, you know what? We'd like to see your accounting records. And they're like, well, what accounting records do you want? Because we have accounting records that go back to the 1930s. Oh, you've got records going back to the 1930s? Just throw the last 5 years together and we'll send somebody there to pick them up within the hour. And we want to take a look at what's going on in DC. Suddenly, Mark Silvestri's got a 7-part Batman story that's getting ready to come out. Jeff Johns is on Justice Society, and Wildcats is coming back. Who do you think's worried about their job?
A lot of people at Warner Brothers, particularly the DC Comics division.
Well, everybody's sweating balls, but who brought Wildcats to DC in the first place? Who's best buddy Mark Silvestri? Whoops. Hey, Mark, how you coming on that Batman story? Can we announce it yet? What? Well, we'll announce it to start next year. Is that okay?
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
I gotta have something, man. I gotta have something. Don't be surprised if that knock on the door comes to fruition. And everybody now is out there screaming, well, this is the death knell for DC. I don't think it's going to happen that way. I think some people are worried for their jobs. I think you're still going to see a couple of dynamic announcements coming out from DC of great books that everybody wants to buy, finally. But from great people that everybody wants to read, finally. But in the meantime, you might hear like this big round of cancellations. Maybe their bottom, 20, 40, 50 books might get canceled. But I don't think you're going to see them leave just yet. So, evening, Trico. Trico's in the house. Buddy, hope you're doing well, Professor.
Yeah, everyone
you're doing well. Good to hear
for a long time now has been, preaching the death throes of DC and Marvel. And I mean, I don't. You I'm kind of in that position where I don't think the comics will go away because right now, well, for decades, really, both DC and Marvel, their entire catalog has been, you has been kind of in high demand. You know,
Mhm.
I may think, I may, I do think that a lot of the people, like Randy said, within those companies are going to go because, yeah, they just it's just been toxic. But from a
Mhm.
business standpoint, um, the properties are just so important and viable. You know, not the comics necessarily, but the characters, Batman, Spider Man. That I don't think it'll die. I
Oh
think
no, 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 no.
The
it'll
one
hold
thing
on for as long as DC and or as long as Warner Brothers and Disney respectively um, want to hold on to it.
the one thing that's kept them alive is the fact that they don't matter.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that's kept the publishing arm of both Marvel and DC alive, is because their corporations are so large they can eat
Yeah.
even their operating budget as a loss, and it won't hurt them. If anything, they need it in order to balance out their taxes.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why these mega corporations keep these non-profitable arms around is for taxes.
Right.
Not a lot of people notice that because people, I hear it all the time. Why is Warner Brothers keeping DC? They don't sell books, and it's like if you know anything about corporate tax law, they kind of like it not making money because they could write it off as a loss.
Well, they don't care.
Yeah.
If it loses money, they write it off. If it makes money, they've got profit.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a win-win for them. So they just put up with them. They put up with the idiots. They put up with the crazies. The asylum, basically. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Doing all right.
Thanks for jumping in. This is your first time on the ZimmCast. Introduce yourself.
Yep. Well, I'm Joe D. McPhee. I'm the president of Exigency Studios. I am the creator of AWF Primetime Saturday Night and Amazonia, which is currently being fulfilled for our last Kickstarter and everything. And the first thing I want to say here is DC ain't going anywhere. Why? Follow the licenses. When you start seeing other publishers or other smaller press getting a hold to things like Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, and Batman, that's when you know the writing's on the wall, because there are specific contracts in there for DC. As long as the Trinity is still together and they're printing books from the main three, they're not going to go too far. They're not going to go too far. Now they might cut other titles away and they might sell off other IPs, but as long as you're not hearing about, all of a sudden some no-name publishers now printing Superman books, that's when you start worrying.
Right. Well, the thing I learned today is that IDW, when they were printing the Marvel books for kids, that was an experiment on Marvel's part to see if they could license their IPs out and how it would look. And according to the source that I have, it didn't look good, not for Marvel. So they withdrew the license. So IDW, it's just another one in a long list of licenses that IDW keeps letting slip through their fingers and losing. But that's a whole different problem for a whole different show. Oops. Hot potato. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the key thing, is always follow the IP.
Right.
IDW had pretty much the kingdom gain from all of this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oops. Anyway. But hey, Mr. Zaslav, if you want to hire a bunch of people to work for you, don't listen to what Dan Didio told the whole industry a couple years ago, that the talent isn't there. The talent's right here. Half of us are making our own freaking IPs. Half of us are already got crowdfunders running. Half of us probably are making more money than you can offer us at the moment anyway, and still make a profit at this rate. Don't let this opportunity slip through your fingers. Please go through and clean house. I know it's a small company for you. I know it's nickels compared to the dollars that you're trying to herd cats on now. But the publishing company, the physical publishing company, will pay off in the long run if you build the audience right. And all you have to do he said, reaching for proof. All you have to do is talk to Scholastic about what they're doing to build a comic audience right now, because this Cat Kid Comic Club book is not out there for no reason. It is amazing that the industry, you're not hearing anybody talk about. Dave Pilkey, the same man that brought you Dog Man, in the industry, I guess if you have to use the word community, they want to talk negative about Scholastic and what they're doing and how they're getting out there, and they've got an express access to schools and all that. Guys and gals out there, if you have not read Cat Kid Comic Club, pick up the first issue and read it. It's worth the $15. That's the price of admission. If you have somebody in your family that's of the scholastic age, who reads Dogman, Captain Underpants, who's remotely interested in comics, get that first book for them because it's amazing. I can't recommend it enough. I'd really like to get Mr. Pilkey on the air on one of the podcasts just to talk to him about his methods and what he's doing and why he's doing it. But if you've read that first Cat Kid Comic Club, the whole story is about kids making comics. It's a comic club. And these kids make their own comics. And the whole first book is about the teacher, who I think is a floating goldfish, is telling the people that are in the comic club to make their own comics. Let's read your comics. So she's sitting there reading comics, and she's reading about poop. She's reading about talking farts flying through the air. She's reading about people doing horrendous acts of violence to people. And she's going, no. We're in school. You can't do this indecent stuff. You can't do kids books with a girl with a sword fighting monsters. You can't do that. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to do that? This is Barb the Berserker, by the way, available at most of your box stores and Sam's, and probably some of your better retailers if they have any mind for the business at all. But anyway, I picked that up too. I picked that up at Sam's Club. Hardback. Look at how thick that book is. Look at how, and that's drawn a little bit better than the Cat Kid Comics Club. And it's aimed at a little bit higher audience. Mm-hmm. The next generation, the people that are maybe just getting past Dogman, looking for other stuff. She's fighting big spiders. Look at there. She's fighting a big spider. She's fighting large monsters. She's Barb the Berserker, the last Berserker. And there's at least 2 books out of this. Fighting abominable snowmen. Or not. Maybe it looks like they're talking to her. Give me the power. Look at that. Women enraged. There you are. Right there. Empowerment. Girls empowerment. Anyway, back to the Cool Kid Cat Club. The coolest thing about the Cool Kid Cat Club is at the end of the book, the teacher realizes this is an outlet for the kids. This is how the kids express themselves, how they can give out emotions. So it's like, let's do talking farts. Let's draw all of this. And at the end of that book, Dave Pilkey teaches all of his kids, anybody who buys this book, how to draw the poop emoji. Cool. Here's how you draw a pile of poop with eyes on it. It's amazing. And this is a book that Scholastic has got out there to the kids. Let's teach these kids how great comics are. Pilkey is doing more for comics right now, doing more for this industry right now than what Marvel and DC have done in the last 5 years. Except for the big billion-dollar movies. Might be pulling in more, but even that, you're not pulling anybody more, and you're not pulling in a larger audience into the retailers. These retailers out there should be jumping on all of these books. I don't know if Diamond offers them or not. If they don't, then they're missing out on some money. I haven't looked at a previews in a while. I need to do that. Hopefully, I'll do that here in the next week or so. But hey, there's so much opportunity out there. There's so much room. There's so much talent available, and there's new talent coming. But it's not coming from Marvel and DC. They're not trying to breed this talent. They're not trying to grow this market. They're out there just pooping out whatever they want in order to make whatever statement they want. They're turning, and it's as bad as Alex Jones makes it sound like, that they're turning all of the kids gay. I mean, they're not turning kids gay, but
Oh,
they're
it's
turning,
just the frogs.
it's
Just the frogs.
No, they're turning all of the icons gay.
Yeah.
And they're having a they think they're making some sort of statement when they're actually, they're actually chasing off an audience. And they're giving retailers a harder time surviving. And these retailers will tell you the end run DC, what is it? 3/4 of their line now is below the top 100 sales books, according to anybody who tries to keep records. Most of them are in the bottom 200.
Well, I know they were trying for that young adult market. There's a few books like out there with that. There's Marvel's.
That was
their
number one seller out there for a while, was a young adult graphic novel with Beast Boy. Not that Starfire book, but the Beast Boy book was selling.
Not Gotham High.
Nope.
Not Gotham High. No.
You had a Beast Boy book. There was a Miles Morales book for Marvel.
There's a Swamp Thing book.
That did
There's
pretty
a Swamp
good sales.
Thing.
I haven't seen the Swamp Thing book, but I know about the Miles and the Beast Boy
This
book
was
doing well.
not that great of a seller, as much as they hyped it up.
That's in the bottom 200.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this was one of their young adult books that DC came out with.
Okay.
Nubian
okay.
Gorilla.
One of their, I thought you were talking the regular comic.
No. This is one of the YA ones.
Yeah.
That
That also didn't do that well.
Came out with, because there
Didn't
it is.
do well, huh?
Yeah. Young adult. Well, it's not the same as Dog Man or the Cool Cat Comic Club. I bet you
No.
Barb the Berserker even sold more than, and the first time I ever heard of Barb was walking into Sam's Club and looking to see what books they had and says, what's this? A prose novel? Oh, this is all a graphic novel. This is pretty cool.
But everything begs to question one thing here, and one thing only. And this is something that I've been trying to research myself.
Mm-hmm.
Is how do you reach this younger audience, considering that what brought us to the table years ago for comics is not the same thing that's bringing them to the table now?
Who's to say it's not?
Well, who's to say that? Again, we got so many different books out there as of right now, and nothing's catching these people's attention. Even some of the older books is not bringing the numbers that should be coming in from, let's just say, from like 6 to like 13, like they should.
Yeah, but the comics aren't like they were back when we were coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The sense of adventure is completely gone for people sitting around eating pizza and talking about social justice. To a extreme extent. It's just crazy, the difference between the quality of the writing from back then to now. But back then also, you had a group of people that were hitting deadlines and a group of editors that were making a product that they knew how to make. Something entertaining, something that the kids would want to read. And granted, their audience was narrowed down by a slim demographic that we all should have been. The first minute that demographic study came down, we should have all been ashamed of ourselves and had gone out of the way to change it. We never did, though. All we did was sell to it. And by we, I mean the industry in general. Marvel and DC, they hit that same demographic over and over and over again. And if they happened to catch anybody outside of that demographic, that was just a fluke. I keep saying every time when Wolverine premiered, Storm should have come out at the same time, and they should have kept that title out there and put some quality people on it. Should have been a regular title.
Oh yeah.
This whole time. Monica Rambeau should have stayed Captain Marvel. They had no reason to bring Carol Danvers in at all. They could have tweaked Monica Rambeau into the exact same character, only as a person of color. And she could have still been the masthead for the company and been an important one. No, it was a blown opportunity in my mind.
And what's really hilarious about that is when Carol Danvers came out as Captain Marvel, all these people were like, oh, there's finally a female Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Mary Marvel's
never read those books too.
Mary Marvel's been around from the 50s, but they're not going to admit that.
Not only that, she, Monica Rambeau is a female,
or 40s, I should say. She's around early 40s.
and non-white, so she hit two demographics that they're desperately trying to cater to, but
not
never...
only not only that, but the editor, whoever approved, and it's no reflection on Mechanic, which I'm sure I just massacred that last name. I'm sorry, Kelly Sue. There's no reflection on her talent. She's talented. She come up in the business doing dialogue for Frankenstein, Castle Frankenstein, something like that. Anyway, doing anime adaptions into English. So she knew basic structure. She knows how to write. She's done competent comics in the past. I've read a few of the early Captain Marvels. Somebody should have caught her, though, and say, hey, Carol Danvers has got kind of a nasty, tainted past. Why don't we not use her? She's already binary. She's out floating in space. That's where she needs to stay. Claremont put her out there for a reason, because she had a horrible, tainted past that they had screwed up on writing-wise. And they were embarrassed about it in the first place. So Chris went, yeah, she goes off and she gets all powerful and gets sent off into space. Good for her. There she goes. And if you have her reappear, have her in Guardians of the Galaxy as binary, which is probably a problematic name at the moment. But as long as, well, maybe she has an evil twin called non-binary. I don't know. Somebody up there at Marvel is probably thinking about that right now. But anyway.
But again, nobody follows history like they should. But
yeah.
then again, we don't force the younger people to go back to read, Monica Rambeau. Again, people should know Monica Rambeau led the Avengers at one time.
Well, they stumbled around with her and called her Spectrum and Prism or whatever, and at least three different names until they settled. And even Spectrum's the name of a cable company. Come on. What are they doing?
But the whole thing is all that name change and everything when she was truly Captain Marvel before the Galactic Storm story arc for the Avengers. She led them. Captain America followed her lead, not the other way around.
Right.
That goes to show you the viability of that character from way back when. However, she had two number one issues where really it's really supposed to be an issue 1 and issue 2 that came out 5 years apart from one another.
Yeah.
And then nobody thought anything about those two issues until after the so-called Captain Marvel movie came out, and then all of a sudden, oh, what about Monica? Monica should have been Captain Marvel. It's like, where were you back here?
Yeah.
To make that statement.
When they announced Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, I says, why? She was gone. She was in space. Claremont got rid of her for a reason. Holy crap. Do they not know that she was, she gave birth to an alien and then ran off with it to be sexual and to live happily ever after or whatever?
Isn't
that problematic? Come on.
Another issue that should not be mentioned, which is Avengers 200. Because that's what you're referring to.
Or she come back and yelled at the Avengers for allowing her to leave? Yeah.
No. 200 was where she had the baby.
Couldn't you tell I was brainwashed? Oh, okay.
Yeah. The one that was the issue where she had the baby and got sexual with it because the baby was done, was in the future and it came back, came back to the past, and then it was just.
It is what they call in the business. And because we're MADLSV, we can say it here. They call it in the business a clusterfuck.
Exactly.
That's what it was. And they should have never allowed her to come back. They should have said, hey, you know what? We've already got a Captain Marvel, even though there was a blue Captain Marvel and another male Captain Marvel. We've got a female Captain Marvel right here. Just have her reclaim the name. And she's got crazy powers. Just send her on her way and let her represent the company.
But the case.
That's it. Couldn't do it.
That's just it's almost like my gripe about how they're handling Nubia right now. How many limited series are you going to give this individual that sells well before you give her ongoing title?
Doesn't she have an ongoing title? No, it's still miniseries. They don't have enough faith in those characters. They want a soapbox. They want to stand out there about how diverse they are, but they don't want to put any faith in a POC.
But then again, they're trying to open up this door, talk about the future of comics through Milestone. I was like, no, Milestone is not the way. You have
no, Joe. Your Milestone is a way. Let Milestone come out and do what they're doing, and then use that to do better. And they've treated Milestone like crap too.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean.
They've treated all of these. Look at Black Panther is another great example. They were so ashamed of Black Panther in Avengers 51 that they covered the cowl part of his face up. They had to blacken it in because they thought it wasn't going to sell in the South if somebody was on their cover with brown skin. That's why Black Panther has a full face covering. Well, they got the character was so hot and so popular, but they didn't want to give him his own book. They put him in the Avengers, and they put him in the Avengers for a while without that piece in it, with just a regular cowl on it. And you had too many people writing in going, "This really looks silly. Why are you doing that for? What the heck is this all about?" So they covered it back up again because it was a cooler look. And then it took them decades before they brought his power level up. He was such a secondary book that Don McGregor was writing the hell out of that title for a couple of years. It was bi-monthly at that point and it was in Jungle Action. How stereotyped can you get at that point, and running with it? And there were still stories in the back of Jungle Action with white Tarzan ripoff characters running through it, male and female, in that book, because they were too afraid that a black guy couldn't carry a whole book, even though Luke Cage had already been out there, and Luke Cage had suffered also. But that ties back to the quality of the talent that they have working on the book. Well, they get Black Panther rolling with a great writer and a great artist with Billy Graham working on it, and they're kicking ass on the title. And they just slowly close it out. And then, when Kirby comes back, they let Kirby start doing a Black Panther title again, and he has him fighting giant toads. Go.
And it's kind of like, for some reason, these guys that are always, screaming about diversity, for some reason, don't think that that characters of color are worth anything unless they're taking the title or the story away from an already established character.
And we had an entire decade where every male black character had his head shaved.
Yeah.
Because
It's
nobody wanted to trust
legitimate.
themselves drawing black hair, apparently. Yeah.
It's like they don't view, the plethora of non-white, non-male, non-straight characters as legitimate. They feel they have to create a new character and have him take the mantle of another one. No, you have, I'm definitely not saying that that's all you should have, but at least as a springboard, you have all these other characters, both companies, Marvel and DC, that they could do wonderful things with, but they don't want to. Like I said,
I'm going to say this, and this is good. None of you are going to like what I'm about to say. But I'm going to tell you this now. If you want to bring new characters up, retire Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. As long as they're still around and you're still making books on them, that audience is going to go there. But if you want to make new characters and you want them to come up, you're going to have to slack off on the other ones. That's just all there is to it.
Well, no, I think you should keep those characters there, but that would be a great way to introduce new characters.
But they have kept the characters there, and you're not seeing anybody come up.
Here's an example. How come they never gave Falcon his own book? I love Falcon. Falcon was
because they made him Captain America.
Well, they decided to make him Captain. That's another dumb.
Yeah, he didn't have his own book until he became Captain America.
Yeah. Now he's got his own book.
But C is bringing up the two problems that I see with that. Because remember, Mitch brought up the perfect example, but there's two problems with that. One, when you create a brand new character, and this is from my experience as a publisher, it takes years for people to recognize that character and to understand what that character represents. So you're going to have to go at least 3 to 5 issues before people really start taking an interest in that character for them to be like, hey, this is viable. Why don't I give it a try?
That's not really what they have to do, though. If they want to raise interest in the character and they're leery about giving that character its own title off the bat, have him run the gambit through the different books. Have him go through and meet the other masthead characters. Have him run through his origin story very lightly. Get to know that character. Make him a unique enough character so that he's, or he or she or whoever it is, it gains that attention. Then let the fans decide if they want to buy. You want to buy a book with this character? Just let us know. So look at how long it took him to do a Punisher book. Look at how long it took him to do a Wolverine book. They were scared to death. But look at how quick they did a Howard the Duck book, because Howard pops into the back of Giant Size Man Thing and people go crazy for it. They have a couple of backup stories in the back of Giant Size Man Thing. People are still going crazy for it, and they kick it off into its own book.
Absolutely. And how long did that last?
25 issues, I think.
25 issues, 2 years. And how come it didn't last longer? How come we're not looking at 300s?
You have a talent problem on that book as well. I mean, Gene Colan was on there and he's solid, and Gerber was on there for a short period of time, but the people that came in to replace him couldn't match the absurdity that Gerber had already pointed to with the character.
Yeah, for him, but that's my point. It's like, but if I had to choose, I have a limited amount of money, and I had to choose between a character I constantly know or this new character, I'm going to go with the character that I'm familiar with. But if you start backing off on the characters they're familiar with and not releasing as much on that, you can bring up other characters and expand your universe.
Granted, there shouldn't be 50 Batman titles out there.
Well,
that's no question. There shouldn't have been 50 X-Men titles out there either, and there shouldn't be so damn many X-Men.
Exactly.
Period. And they definitely don't need to be going to a ball every 6 months.
Which brings up the second problem. The second problem with dealing with mantles is that mantles are meant to be passed. Mm-hmm. However, the problem with that is that you have a fan base that's going to play bias with it. Mm-hmm. You could have characters that are going to follow up. It's like when I think about the Flash family. We really didn't have too much of an outcry between Jay Garrick to Barry Allen, from Barry Allen to Wally West.
Wally West, sorry, not Wallywood.
Yeah, which is Wally West. We didn't have that much of an outcry between those. But yet, when you look at from Steve Rogers to Sam Wilson, big outcry. But yet, my problem with that is, it's like, where was the outcry for Isaiah Bradley to Steve Rogers? Mm-hmm. And people don't understand. It's like, well, who is Isaiah Bradley? Isaiah Bradley was the first Cap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Red, White, and Black. People keep forgetting about stories that said that Steve was not the first.
That was also a retrofit too, though.
Mm-hmm.
That come in after.
It made sense, though. It made sense,
of course.
Because again, according to the origin of Captain America, he wasn't the first person that they tested the super soldier on.
And that super soldier formula got passed around quite a bit, and people have tried to imitate it here and there. It's where Man-Thing came from. But it looked like in the.
I don't know too much about Isaiah, but I can totally see that fitting into the Tuskegee experiments.
Well,
something around, that type of
thing.
That's what they likened it.
Emulated.
Is that what they did?
That series. Yep. That's what they emulated in that series. That it predates. It actually predates Steve by
who wrote that?
6 or 7 years.
Do you remember who the writer was on that? That wasn't Wade.
Not off the top of my head. Not off the top of my head. I just recently got it.
It was probably Ed Brubaker. Yeah.
For some reason, I keep wanting to think Brubaker.
You're probably right.
Yeah, because I just recently picked up another full set of it.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's an awesome, awesome read. But the point of the matter is, it's just fan bases are going to be fickle as far as who holds whatever mantle.
Yeah.
I mean, even now, it's like, from Peter Parker to Miles Morales, you got people complaining about the passing of that mantle, considering the fact that you had Ben Reilly in between there, and people had a problem with Ben Reilly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
it's just a matter of understanding that mantles are meant to be passed, and you may not like who the creators may choose to push the mantle to, but the thing about it is, like, it doesn't stop you from liking the older character. And kind of to what C's point is, it's like, if I could still buy a Peter Parker Spider-Man book, why am I going to buy a Miles Morales?
Exactly.
Yep.
Because again, my favorite Spider-Man is Peter Parker. As long as Peter Parker stories are coming out, I have no reason to buy a Miles Morales.
No.
I never had much appreciation for the character until the cartoon. Until
Well,
the
he wasn't.
Spider-Verse
He didn't
cartoon.
really have much of a
And then it was such
personality
a
over the
great. It
cartoon.
was that's true. It was such a great lead-in that.
I'm telling you, it's
was
true.
just
Go
a
look
great
it up.
story.
They took Miles Morales' personality and they gave it to Tom Holland.
Okay.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
And so when they were doing Spider-Verse, they had to reinvent Miles Morales in order for that movie to work.
Okay.
And that's why you have the because Miles Morales was kind of a Spider-Man simp.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you had the Tom Holland Spider-Man, all Iron Man, and Mr. Stark and Mr. Stark. And
I hated
completely
that aspect
drab
of
and
it.
no personality whatsoever. Just
I hated his entire obsession with Tony Stark. I hated in those movies
Man is in the house.
because to me it just kind
Thanks
of
for
ruins
listening.
the character.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of what made Spider-Man, well, Peter Parker Spider-Man great is he was doing it all on himself. He didn't have help, so he was like literally himself against the criminal element of New York City.
mm-hmm.
And then when
Well, a lot
he
of
kind
these.
of forces himself into like the Fantastic Four. He auditioned with a bag on his head. I don't know if y'all remember that. That was hilarious. He tried to become part of the Avengers, but he was always kind of viewed as this kid that's kind of off by himself. And I love that about the character. And they really did him a disservice, basically making him Iron Man Jr. I think.
Yeah, I hear you. They had to do something with the icon. You know?
I just
Well,
never
yeah, but it could
understood.
have been a lot more.
I
they
don't
could've.
understand how they brought Spider-Man into the MCU. Period. It doesn't make any sense.
Not the
whole
way
thing.
that they did. Not the way that
Oh,
they did.
Miss Tony Stark is upset because he might have been responsible for a kid dying. So he goes and gets a kid to go and fight seasoned superheroes. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And that, for me, that's why that movie does not hold up at all.
Well, Homecoming had that backhanded kind of concept to it. Because remember, Tony kept telling Peter in Homecoming, be happy with what you got. Be that local hero, because everybody needs that local hero. You don't need to be an Avenger. He was trying to push him in that direction. As Peter's like, oh yeah, it's like I fought with you before. I fought with the big guys. So let me get onto the big team. And Tony was like, no, pushing back. But it's like, but you have to think about it. It's like, why would you have him in Civil War if he wasn't ready?
Right.
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense. So when Homecoming comes out and Tony's doing that, it's like that's kind of backhanded. It's like, what are you really trying to tell us? It's like, did you put these movies out of order for some reason?
Oh, I don't think they've known what they were doing for a while now. Yeah. I think they're shooting. They've been shooting in the dark.
Yeah, when the original MCU, like at that moment where Marvel was developing all the MCU stuff, I think is really when it went off the rails. Because before then, they had a plan, and you could tell that in the movies. They had a plan for each one, but then it just became, okay, how can we put this property in? How can we put this property in? And it just became more of an IP farm than an actual coherent universe.
Oh yeah. But I mean, that's what they are. I mean, in the long run.
Yeah. But not even that so much anymore. They're just stumbling over themselves and doing anything that's ridiculous. What do you think will piss off the fans? Let's do that. That'll be great. Because if they piss off the fans, they'll get some notice.
Yeah, for some reason that seems to be one of the biggest driving forces right now, because there's this big push to have Giancarlo Esposito, Gus from Breaking Bad, as Professor X.
Yeah,
I have no problem with him, being Professor X. If he's good for the job, he's good for the job. But a lot of the people that are pushing that we'll piss off the fans, because I saw an article.
I did hear that.
I think it was from Bleeding Core or something. I mean, it could be another company, but but it was pretty politically biased. So I'm just assuming Bleeding Core. But yeah, the whole point of the article was was how great it was to piss the fans off if they get Giancarlo Esposito as Professor X. It's like, is that the only reason you want him? I mean, he's a great actor. Shouldn't that be why he gets the
I think
job?
he said he wanted it, honestly. But
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
He said he'd love to be Professor X.
Giancarlo would knock it out of the park. Whatever they give him, he'll knock it out of the park. It doesn't matter. And I'm honestly all for that because I can't think of anybody else that could bring a Professor X feel.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Because Patrick Stewart's too old.
Oh, he's gone. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I can't think of anybody out there. And why I like James McAvoy, and I think James McAvoy is a fantastic actor. He's never really settled for me to be Professor X.
It's too young.
Yeah.
You and McGregor's talking to Marvel about being in the MCU. And I wouldn't be surprised if Esposito ends up being Doctor Doom. Just because it's such a good character. That's a character that's got a franchise underneath it that's very underrated in the MCU.
Yeah.
That's going to be I understand they're going to make him a major push. I guess he's in Wakanda Forever, only in the background. He's probably in the last minute post-credit scene.
Is Hector Salamanca appearing in Bold? Hector Salamanca was in the wheelchair.
Oh boy.
But see, as far as that's concerned, but you would get the same from Giancarlo Esposito as we've got from Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. That's how I view that.
Who was complaining about Nick Fury being Nick Fury?
Could totally do.
I'm sorry. Who was complaining about Samuel L. Jackson being Nick Fury? No one.
Well, nobody was going to complain about Samuel L. Jackson being anybody.
True.
Right, but not openly and in public.
Yeah, no.
Because if you did, people would look kind of strange at you.
Not only that, but everybody our age, or maybe a little younger, had all seen David Hasselhoff be Nick Fury, and they're like, Samuel L. Jackson's going to be Nick Fury? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what they said. It's exactly the way that conversation went. At the end of Iron Man, when he turned around and had the patch on, you were like, fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was a geek boy moment, just like Wolverine popping his claws in the first X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
Does it hurt? Every time.
Every time. Just like in X-Men 96, one of my favorite books, Claremont was just coming on that book. Cochran was still drawing it. They were fighting the Sentinels, and Wolverine breaks out by popping his claws, breaks out of his manacles. He's in these gloves or whatever, breaks out, and breaks everybody else out. And Banshee's stunned, and he's sitting there going, "Laddie, holy crap! You never told me those claws. You never told us those claws were part of your body." And he looked at him and says, "You never asked."
Mm-hmm. You never asked, bub.
Yeah, that's what was missing from the movie. He never called anyone bub.
Yeah, bub.
He
did
called him bub in Origins, huh?
Right. That's what I'm
that
thinking.
Movie does not exist.
Was the first time
that movie does not exist.
He called it Bub. Don't call me Blob. I didn't say Blob.
That's what they told Ethan Van Sciver when he tried to collect for royalties on Angel. That movie does not exist. Not for you. Anyway.
Still waiting on Cyberfrog, by the way.
Ding, ding, ding. We're all still waiting. Anyway,
exactly.
Story. We'll see how that goes. I'm waiting. I'm also waiting for Isom. We'll see how that reads. Because I was discussing it with somebody else today on PM. How come he hasn't released any of the full comic pages to show dialogue and the great Eric Weathers lettering? What's up? Seems a little odd. I can't wait to read that book just to see. In fact, I told him that when I bought his book, I says, if that book reads as pretty as it looks, you might be around for a while. That's exactly what I wrote.
Yep. I mean,
that's where it's all going to tie down to.
Everything seems to be in order. The business side seems to be in order. Everybody's just like, where's the product?
Well,
PDF, a PDF sample,
No, that I understand because he was anticipating he doing business, and he does. It looks like he's coordinated enough to know business very well.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes out and he gets everything printed and everything ready to go. He pops the thing open and he sells 10 times more than he was expecting. That's going to cause a problem. So
It's a good problem, but it's still
Yeah.
a problem.
he didn't make the same mistake Ethan made, though, and buy a warehouse that was 10 times smaller than what he would need.
That's true.
When I still laugh when we saw that video going around. Hey, I've got all this space. I said, no, you don't. You bought T-shirts and hoodies, and you don't know how few hoodies fit in a big box. You're going to be out of space as soon as you get that shirt order. You're done. He gets that shirt order, and he's out buying another warehouse.
I'm curious though.
Out looking to rent a bigger one. You know, so now he's in 2 places.
Now he's saying everybody keeps calling it a campaign, but all I've heard him say that is pre-order.
It's pre-order, yeah.
Right.
It's
okay.
pre-order.
But what's the release date?
As soon as he gets the books back from the printer.
I mean,
And the
usually when you
thing
have
that
a
bothers
pre-order
me
for
is
something, you
he's
have to
not
order before
releasing.
they-
He's already got books in house, and he's not sending those out until he gets them in for everybody, because he wants everybody to go out and get the story all at once. Really? Okay. How long is it going to take you to get that? Probably another 2 containers in from China. Go.
Yeah.
If
And
that's where
that's
you're
the
going to.
weird-
Hopefully, he said he's going to print in the States, and I honestly hope he does. It'll be good.
And that's the weird thing, because he's sending out all the other swag, the T-shirts, the other memorabilia, and everything. All that stuff is being shipped.
Is,
The
oh,
book
is it?
hasn't.
Well, he might have been able to
didn't know
anticipate
that.
demand for that, because turnaround time on a T-shirt's 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Especially with the larger publishing houses. That's max. And if you know the person, you can probably get it turned around in 5 business days. If you know
Well,
the business.
Well, he has some stuff made, and he has some stuff that
He
will sell
did.
out.
He had books. He's shown boxes of books. He's pulled books out. He's flipped through it real fast so you can't really
He
see.
even showed people packing up stuff for people who pre-ordered. So there's stuff there,
Yeah.
ready to go, ready to be in the post. He just haven't done it yet.
He's waiting until he gets everybody else's stuff in. Which is
Waiting
like,
for PayPal.
I don't know. Do you not have faith in your
That's a
product?
whole
Or
nother
you
story.
don't want
That's-
anybody pirating the thing and putting it online. That I understand, because that's the first thing all of the people that are jealous are going to do is they're going to take a copy, scan it, and put it on every pirate site they can, so that nobody has to pay for the thing, because they're all jealous of that money coming in.
Oh yeah.
I still
They're
think-
gonna do whatever they can to keep that from happening, even though it's great for the industry. Every last dollar that Eric July makes off of that product, even if it sucks, even if the product is even if it's poorly dialogued, poorly written, great for the industry, because he's pointing out to everybody that kind of money is out there. You just have to work for it. Find your audience. Do that. The great video that Brian Polito did, where he's like, here's what I did. Here's what I built up. Here's what it took me. It took me 4 months. I've got this. I've got that working. I've got campaigns turning around every 3 months. I'm making a certain amount of money every campaign that I do. You can do the same thing. You just need to find your audience, just like I did. And most importantly, you need to do the work.
Mhm.
You need to put in the work, understand the market, hit your market, find a market that you can make money off of, and hit that market and hit it as hard as you possibly can, which might also explain why, you have Cyberfrog t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and everything like that before you get the second Cyberfrog book up. So he's taking that market and milking it for as much as he can.
And the pre-order to pre-order or the
Pre-order.
campaign or whatever it is.
It's the first order was the pre-order. Now he just closed the pre-order account.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, it's all self-contained within his website. So that's the
Mitch,
cool-
now we have 2 of you.
What?
Yes.
Hang on, let me.
Which one
That
do we
one's
keep?
Champ. Which one?
Mitch and Champ? They're both
Yes.
Mitch and Champ.
Yeah.
He's laying on the floor. He kept.
Champ.
Okay, there we go.
Champ was playing around with your feed. We know he's back there
Yeah.
playing. He wants on. That's why you don't put me in
He
your
keeps-
in your name. I'll pop my head up every
He
5
keeps
seconds.
dropping his squeeze ball in front of me, wanting me
Hello.
to play fetch.
Well, you're right there.
I know.
Oh, let's see here. Hector Salamanca is Professor. Okay. One bell It means use your eye beams. 2 bells means use ice trees. Yeah, ding, ding, ding. What the hell? It's 3 bells. Anyway, beast.
No, it's what your
Use your foot
claws.
attack. That's
It's
what
the
it is.
claws. It's the claws. 3 claws.
We are now in the Mandela universe. Well, that's just about every. That's the Marvel and DC's constant since the 90s, right? I always tell everybody all my heroes died at Heroes Reborn and Crisis. They've been replaced by soulless zombies ever since.
Now that makes me wonder which Crisis and which Heroes Reborn, since there's multiple versions of it.
And why Marvel's not printing John Byrne's Elsewhere unless John Byrne doesn't want them to print it, which would make sense considering the current echelon up there at Marvel. That doesn't make money. It doesn't make sense to me because that's instant money, especially if you get Terry Austin back inking on those books. And those books are that work that Byrne is doing is the best work of his career. And if they don't open it up to a larger audience other than digital and pirates, it's a genuine shame.
You know what I just picked up recently? John Byrne's Untold Story of the Phoenix that actually told what he wanted as far as the end of the Phoenix saga.
That's the Elsewhere books.
Oh, that was one of them?
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's what they call it. Was it all in pencils?
No, this was an actual thing produced by Marvel, and I haven't looked at the interiors as of yet. I wasn't certain if it's all pencils or whatnot, but it's actual.
If you haven't seen Byrne's pencil work, he springs off of X-Men 127, Death of Phoenix, but instead of killing her, they take her and knock her down to a 5-year-old mentality,
to almost a vegetable.
Yeah, and then they take her back to her parents, and they say, we're off on other adventures, and then they go off on other adventures.
Yeah, didn't some, like, it was a dare? Didn't Claremont say, like,
No,
Byrne
sat down and did it. I've heard 2 different stories. One that he pitched it to Marvel. Marvel didn't take it, and he said, fine, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to post it online. It won't be finished artwork. It'll be fan fiction. So here we, try to see me and see what kind of publicity you get. And the other story was that he did it, and Marvel went back to him and begged to print it, and he told them no, told him to F off, and I'm just going to keep doing this. Thank you very much.
Well, once it gets here, I'm going to take a look to see if it's all pencils or not. But it is. But
what Cartoon Kayfabe had a review of one of the pirated volumes because they do circulate print files for 2 full books. Each book's 200 pages apiece of the work that he's done. And I understand, at least, I've seen the 2 print files, but I understand there's a total of 4 books now that are available because he's doing the equivalent of a regular monthly title, only he's posting it a couple pages a week. And he's been doing a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, I heard that they didn't really want to kill off Jean Grey.
No, he didn't want
No, Shooter made them kill him off.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah,
because that's the only way that she could go, because she had already killed off a planet of asparagus people, or broccoli heads actually, or celery people. That's what it was. They look like
that is a capital offense.
It is very much. Yeah, says you can't have her blow away an entire planet and not have her get killed. She's going to have to die.
Yeah.
So they didn't really want to kill her, but they wanted her to pay for it. So they stripped the Phoenix Force out of her, and she was pretty much the mentality of a 5-year-old when it was left. And they, in Byrne's version, they drop her off at her parents. Go out and fight Magneto and Sauron and all sorts of other characters as they in new adventures.
See, that would be a perfect fit if they would have left it the way Byrne did, and then when God Love Man Kills comes out later on, her parents would have been for the Stryker campaign because of what they did to Jean Grey.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it would have made that story a lot deeper than what it was. But we will never get it now.
I always wanted to do a what if title. What if the X-Men were still fighting Proteus?
Ooh.
And strip everything back to 119 and have somebody accidentally kill Proteus and then suddenly wake up. And then rebuild the X-Men from that point on.
That would be interesting.
That would be a fun.
So would that be just that would be you start off with the original team?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Strip it right back to the Byrne, Austin, Claremont group. Go forward from there. Lots of possibilities. Lots of disappointment.
So that would have meant if they killed Proteus, that would have meant that Scott.
Everything that everything from the point where they were fighting Proteus on was a dream. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the original 5 would have died, and we would have only had the new team coming in.
No, you're thinking Krakoa.
Okay.
Proteus was a character that was bending everybody's reality.
Okay, so we're going
and making them dream.
Oh, yeah.
A little farther up the line.
Okay, so we're going later.
Yeah.
Okay, we're later in that.
But Krakoa would also be an interesting departure point if those characters were just stripped away.
I'll say why couldn't the original 5 die in Krakoa? It would have made a more interesting fit. But then again, if that was the case, then people could say, well, are you biting off of Doom Patrol? Because when Doom Patrol came back in DC, they had a whole brand new team with Celsius, which is the so-called
Celsius, Tempest, Robot Man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember. Joe Staten did the artwork on that. Beautiful book. Mm-hmm. A lot of fun. Anyway.
But it could have been the people who were saying
they were already blamed for ripping off Doom Patrol anyways.
Yeah.
Why not?
That's true. Mm-hmm. That, from what I understand, was more coincidence than ripoff, but depending upon whose story you want to listen to.
What was his name? The guy who created Doom Patrol, Archibald. I can't remember what his name is. But yeah, he was upset because they had a professor in a wheelchair.
Yeah, there were too many similarities to be. Yeah,
right.
It could have come from the offices, depending upon what story you want to adhere to. The DC could have designed them first, or they could have designed it first, and somebody swapped information to the other side.
It was Arnold Drake. Arnold Drake was mad about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Arnold Drake was mad about it. They're like, most of them were like, no, I think it's a coincidence. I don't think he's ripping you off.
Well,
a lot of stuff,
honestly, back then, anything was possible. Because you're still, that's why you still have people arguing over comic history today, who created what and who. And that brings me to the to this next little bit. I was in the grocery store. Yes, I was buying groceries. And I ran across this gem. I had to take a picture of the cover just to get people's opinion. Ready? Because I always look for comics at the grocery store. Because I've been trying to look at different means of distribution, different distribution points, things that we ought to be covering in order to get comics out into a wider masses. And then I see this. From Entertainment Weekly, Stan Lee, A Life of Marvel, his universe, his legacy, his heroes.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's what I said. That's why I had to take a picture of the cover.
Well, at least they got most of the characters on the cover his creations or co-creations.
Co-creations.
Yeah.
If anything, it would probably be just his universe, but legacy and heroes, I don't know about that.
Well, technically, it's not. It's Disney's universe anymore. But yeah. It was none of those were ever his, except maybe his legacy. And that's because that's a legacy he built up for himself, and a lot of that was on the back of the people that co-created them characters. He co-created those characters.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did he co-create Iron Man? I can't remember.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
It was WWJS. What would Jack say?
Yeah. him and Kirby did Iron Man and Hulk. There's a lot of debate over Black Panther because the Kirby estate will tell you exactly where the origins of Black Panther came through, and that was
and Doom.
That was a tank battalion. Oh yeah, Doom, absolutely. A lot of these characters all come out of Kirby's World War II experiences, and Kirby wanted to create. They needed some place for the Fantastic Four to go after they just got done fighting God. So after after that happened, he ships them off to Africa and has them walked over by an African prince in order to demean them. They've just defeated pretty much God. So
Yeah.
they go to Africa, and here's an African prince that just mows over the team in just a couple pages.
Tears with
Done.
Yeah.
And that's before he had the suit made of vibranium and all of the Iron Man tech inside and all of that.
Mhm.
So there you go.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But he did have that super science. Their technology was way advanced.
Because they had botany, because I think it was like a certain herb or something that only royals could take that they explained in those stories or something like that before.
I don't know if it was in the initial Kirby stories, but McGregor built up a lot of the Wakanda background in his book. In fact, he was doing so well on that the old famous story. The Marvel offices told him that the book was too black and that he needed to add more white people to the title, even though it was jungle action. And he goes, "You want me to add more white people? Okay." So the next couple of stories, Black Panther fought the Klan.
They wanted more white people.
They wanted
There you go.
That's what he said. You wanted more white people. Here you go.
They're so white, they wear white.
But that's Don McGregor. I hold a writer who I hold in high esteem. A really, really good writer. I mean, one of the best comic writers probably of all time. And though he always got the lower rung books, they were always incredibly well done. It's like, wow, really? I still remember the Killraven stories to this day. Once he took over the title, and he dragged Craig P. Russell along with him. You had that Killraven series was amazing because you had all these, everybody who inherited the title wanted to do something different with it. It's like a longer version of Skull, Skull the Conqueror? They had a title that ran for like 8 issues back in the 90s called Skull the Unconquered or Skull the Conqueror or Skull the Savage, something. It was Skull something about a guy, and every new writer that came on it totally changed the character around into a different origin, or the entire purpose of the book just twisted and went in a completely different direction. It's a title you never see Marvel reprint or do a collection on because it's such a crazy mess. Huh?
Skull the Slayer?
Skull the Slayer, maybe, yeah.
That's
it starts out on Wikipedia. They start out being involved in the Bermuda Triangle, then it's multi-dimensional, then it's a barbarian story, and he's fighting dinosaurs somewhere in there too. It's just a crazy story. But those were the days, Try to explain Omega the Unknown to somebody. It's just crazy. You never see him around anymore.
I'm rather disappointed. He doesn't have a skull for a head.
No, he's just a barbarian character.
It's a barbarian.
Every writer that come on turned it into a different genre of a book.
Skeletor ruined me. That's all.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Skeletor ruined everybody. Anyway. What's it? They were saying that somebody was supposed to be the major villain in He-Man, and it wasn't Skeletor. He was supposed to be a side character.
What, in this recent version?
No, in the original version, Skeletor was an add-on.
You had
they made him
Skeletor. You had King Snake, and you had
they made him the main villain because he looked so cool.
And Horde Prime.
I don't remember who it was, but they said he was an add-on character until they saw his designs. Whoever designed him, Horak? No,
Hordak was a clone of Horde Prime.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Horde Prime would have been the villain, because you had 3 major villains in He-Man. You had King Snake, you had Skeletor, and you had Horde Prime.
Oh, come on in, everybody. I see you dropping off. We're talking He-Man. We're sorry. We'll change the subject.
He-Man is by the way. It is
watch our watch.
They had comics in the original toys.
Yes.
Hit that like button. Hit that love button. We can use all the attention you have. Here's a little boobs for you. Yabba dabba boobs. Come on back, everybody.
God.
That ties back to our buddy here.
Yeah. It's like to the quote of the hour.
Quote of the hour
for that.
Do you draw the Flintstones naked? There's a market for that.
There you go.
Obviously.
Oh boy! Come on, see, we just gained another viewer. Come on back, folks. We'll show it again. Maybe we'll gain another viewer. There we go. Come on. All right, there we are. Yabba dabba boobs. I accidentally loaded a sexy Velma up here earlier. I should have left it there. That would have been great. She was hot. Nothing like a good, sexy, age appropriate Velma.
It's still
I've seen a
kind of
lot
hard.
of. I've seen a lot of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just thinking to myself, the history of Scooby Doo is still kind of hard to believe that the original cartoon, the premise of it was to be an animated Dobie Gillis.
Yeah.
Dobie Gillis, yeah.
Well, you dig it. A lot of these characters have crazy origins. You know, you go back and look at how derivative Batman was, how derivative Superman was, how crazy, calculated, insane, and deviant Wonder Woman was. Just there's a whole book out on the secret origin of Wonder Woman and Moulton and his
Give me a second. I got
depravity. His depravity, I guess you would say. He went from campus to campus because he'd start teaching psychology courses, and they'd find out how deviant he was, and they'd toss him. He went to another school and started teaching some more. But it's insane. The time he was on, I've noted that before, so I'll be quiet about it. But it's well worth your time to look at the origin of Wonder Woman if you've ever wondered about comics and their creation. A lot of these characters.
Movie about like last year or the year before.
Yeah, was it Moulton? Not Moulton. Moulton and the Wonder Marston and the Wonder Woman. Yeah. Oh, that's Cherry. Look at that. Is that a 1? That's not a 1.
No, this is a 9.
9. Okay, yeah, cool.
9.
That's still right in that Cherry period when Moulton was writing everything and Peters was drawing everything. So, yeah, sweet.
So
almost everything.
I broke these out because I did kind of like the whole thing about comic book investment type stuff.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So
wow,
this is,
how did you? That's a 1.0 even. How did you get that? That's sweet.
This is stuff that I picked up over the years that I just finally on slab. This is a 23. 23. And then the very first Villainy Inc., which is 28.
Okay. Cool.
And
I saw somebody had an All-Star 8 up at auction, and when I saw what that went for, I went, I'm never gonna own that book.
Yeah, any All-Star 8, it's a minimal 6-digit book.
Yeah,
minimal 6 digits.
That's it. But that again, that's a double collectible because they didn't know. Not only does it bring 2 more characters into the Justice Society, but it's got the first appearance of Wonder Woman in it. Ever, and so that's like a double hit right there. And plus, Wonder Woman wasn't even advertised on the cover, so nobody bought it for Wonder Woman. They bought it because it was All-Star Comics. So the collectability on that book is incredibly high. Though slabbed, I think would be a problem, but no, they just put a notation on the tag on the top. And first Wonder Woman. There you go. Interesting story about Wonder Woman in the Justice Society. So the first time she was in the Justice Society, when they were bringing her in, Moulton insisted on writing the story, her episode, because back then the Justice Society would break up and handle individual problems and then all get back together again at the end of the story. And Moulton's story was so wackadoo in the mind of the main writer, who was Gardner Fox, who's a classic writer, that he was never going to use Wonder Woman again, but they told him that she had to be in the book. So he goes, fine, she's the secretary of the team.
Oh, wow.
And she never went off on another adventure with the Justice Society ever until the very last Justice Society story when she got her own little solo adventure. And by that point, Moulton had passed.
I figured.
So he couldn't write that episode. But very fascinating. And in the meantime, Black Canary joined the team, and she was running around as a regular member. Wonder Woman, still the secretary. Fine, she's the secretary. That's it.
That will explain all the jokes about. It's like what you didn't expect me to bake cookies. It's stuff in her own book,
right?
When she was around like the Justice League.
There is a Skull the Slayer. Oh, is there really? Oh, great, Empyrean. Great. That's got to be a great collection. Because I remember as a kid reading that book, it wasn't the same as the previous book. It just went way off into left field, and it just kept twisting. In fact, I remember a gigantic spiral staircase that has different layers of time at one point or another in that book. So it's like it starts out as a prisoner, then there's dinosaurs, then there's the dinosaurs turn out to be actors or something. Yeah, it gets crazy. It's like the DC did a book way back when where every issue was written by somebody different and they got to do whatever they wanted. And it's like, here's where your starting point is. Just make sure it's not the same by the time you're done. And so the writer would write the issue and then send it on to the next one, not knowing anything about any of the previous stuff. And they'd just write. It was like a 12-issue series. And the story just went all over the place on purpose. But that was back then when they used to have fun in the funny books. There you go. They have a Skull Slayer collection on Amazon, 192 pages. That's amazing. They must have brought him back for some reason.
Yep.
So
maybe
just like
Rock Johnson's going to be.
Yeah. My favorite Marvel character was Monarch Starstalker, which was a character that Howard Chaykin wrote and drew for one issue, and it was a pulp science fiction cowboy. Space opera. It was a cowboy space opera. And the guy was dressed like a cowboy, only he was wired up to a mechanical bird. Amazingly, I don't know where I got that idea from in Calico, but anyway. But it was a great story with pure Chaykin, very much in the style of his New Hope material back when he was really playing around with the style that would later become American Flag. Just great. And then it just, to me, his stuff was really loose back then, very expressionistic, very composition driven. And then it gets a little stiffer and a little stiffer and a little stiffer as he goes along in his career. So until he does the current one, a lot of his stuff now is he has to make it static in order to try to make it interesting. Where originally when he was working, like in the New Hope adaptation and Monarch and his Battlestar Galactica work and all that, it was static that he was trying to make you were trying to make sense of, because there was such a barrage of composition and imagery going on that it was amazing. And now he's got to try to do exactly the opposite. He's got to try to spice up what he's doing before he bores everybody. Black Kiss and his comic book history, pseudo comic history book are almost exactly opposite what he started out doing. Cody Starbuck and like I said, the Monarch Starstalker book. That was an issue of Marvel Premiere. Whenever I find it in the back in somebody's back stock, if it's inexpensive, which they usually are, I always buy the copy and then hand it off to somebody. Have you ever read this? It's a great story, great single issue book. Boom. It's like the Byrne, Austin, Claremont, Star-Lord special story that they did. Just solid Star Wars using a superhero character. Just amazing stuff. Very imaginative, very crazy Byrne. Just great stuff. Very good Claremont writing. Just phenomenal work. Anyway, off topic. So whatever the topic was, let's get back.
So that was the topic.
yeah. At least it was about comics.
It was about comics, yeah.
Well, so this article that you had, this Vice article, one thing that stood out to me about it was the page rates that dropped at Marvel and DC in a 2-year span between 2015 and 2017. And significantly at that, almost $100 on one of them for especially for pencils.
Wait,
Not surprising. Let me find that. It's going to take me a second. I should have called it up before we started the show, but didn't.
I have no idea what article you're referring to.
It's from Vice, so you have to take it with a grain of salt.
It's about last year, and it was really discussing about
Motherboard Tech by Vice. It's impossible to make money for most writers and artists in comics. What's the title of it? Is this an old article?
That's
last year.
That's
August last year.
August, 2021. I wonder why that just resurfaced. Well, things on Facebook make the rounds all the time. So.
Well, what's interesting about it is because now that was really announcing the Substack deal. That all those artists and writers went to go and sign the Substack. Now here we are a year later. Do we know what Substack is? Is that a popular?
I was going to say whatever happened to that deal. Poof. That's what
I'm about to say what product has ever came out by Substack? It's been a year, no product.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it took.
Let me try to scroll down here and
hate
get rid of that
articles like that. Well, just that thinking in general that if it's not Marvel and DC, it doesn't exist. Because every time any news comes out about the state of the industry, it's always strictly Marvel and DC.
Yep.
Because
it's impossible to make money for most writers and artists in comics. Marvel and DC use their characters to tell stories about justice, heroism, and righting historical wrongs. Well, not so much anymore. I guess this is an old article. But their creators are left to flounder.
Righting historical wrongs. What, do they go back in time? What's
apparently?
Yeah, I don't get that one either. I didn't understand that.
I mean,
that might be their inference for social justice. I don't know.
Or something that's just clickbaitish to just get people to read their stuff.
Very true. Comic books and the characters that inhabit their pages have never been more mainstream. I hate that word. But the writers and artists who work in comics say it's way too hard to make a living in the industry. Last week, some of the biggest names in comics announced they were making a deal with Substack. Yeah, I should have read this. Yeah, it's a year old. Publish original works on the platform. Batman writer James Tynion, did he used to write Batman? Said in the inaugural, does he? Oh, he go back to it? Please rehire me. I'll work for less. In the inaugural post that he was excited to dedicate my whole brain to building a bunch of really cool stuff on my terms without having to get permission from any publisher to make it. Famously.
If you look at what he's writing for DC, I don't think he's getting permission. It's a bunch of
they don't care enough to give permission. That's the thing. That's the whole point. Substack framed as an investment in talent, pouring money into an industry where creators say they weren't earning much. But people who work in comics have seen this happen before. Sources told Motherboard that they are unsure the kinds of deals that the biggest names in comics have made with Substack. If it'll benefit other people in the industry much, if any, if at all. Every once in a while. Go ahead.
Now, he is posting stuff on Substack. He has a couple of things over there. But let me see. I'm trying to see. He's got one on Betty and Barney Hill.
Oh, I should.
But I mean,
knowing him,
I guess it's kind of interesting considering he's all that Department of Truth and all that, which I didn't get into that book either.
I tried because it's the kind of stuff I'm interested in, but like within the first issue, like every page reminding you that the main character is gay. I was like, okay, like the first time you mentioned it, I kind of got the hint, but let's move the story along.
There's a great parody comic in there somewhere.
Some.
Yeah, he's got stuff over here. But see, my question is,
who was it? Mermaid Comics used to do a superhero character, Go Boy, I think it was called. Goboy. Mermaid Comics. Long comic company, long gone to the annals of time. But like every other page or so is, did I mention I'm gay?
Now I'm curious.
Yeah.
I never had anybody explain this to me. If I subscribe to Substack, am I subscribing to Substack as a platform, or am I going and subscribing to individual writers or individual artists?
Or IPs? Yeah,
that's. It looks like they have it looks like a blog. In all honesty, it looks like a blog.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
It's kind of like Patreon that you're subscribing to whoever.
Yeah, I've never used it. Just got like newsletters.
That's the thing, though, that they paid these guys a lot of money up front to produce product, and even though they produced product, nobody's looking at it. Nobody's talking about it on any other social platform. Hey, did you see the latest installment of whatever Barnstormers or whatever the book that they're doing?
It goes back to what I get into conversations with a lot of people about. The so-called articles like this who hype up a lot of these artists and writers for, Marvel and DC, don't realize that a lot of the same artists and writers are not business savvy, which means that if they did go out on their own, they wouldn't know how to generate the revenue to make the money that they deserve.
There, that's very good point.
That's been part of the fun of crowdfunding, hasn't it, Joe?
Mm-hmm. Well, to a greater degree, because again, it's like even now I figured out that crowdfunding is great for the very beginning, but it's not supposed to be your end all be all business plan.
Right.
But see, and
you've talked about that quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
You can't depend on any of these platforms for your income. You just can't. And if you do, you're foolish. If you rely on any one platform, because the first minute they think you're making too much money, they'll change their rules on you. And then you'll be left in the dark. You'll be struggling for whatever.
Yes, like all the YouTubers that, when the whole partner program hit, all these people were making a living. Then all of a sudden the adpocalypse happened, and a lot of those.
It seems like every 6 months.
Another job.
Seems like every 6 months too. Patreon makes a threat that they're going to change their rules, and people go into a panic. Amazon's already changed their rules for authors at least once that I know of, if not twice, for that exact reason. Too many of the little guys were making too much money, and they had to help the bigger publishers along by making them more prominent. It's like Diamond going through and deciding who the exclusives are, and then what kind of product everybody else can do, and how hard they have to make it for any of the other secondary or third tier companies to even survive out there, and all of the different hoops that they have to run over.
Well, I'm curious. What do you think? Now, for these campaigns that have made a significant amount of money, that they could start and take that money, use it for funding, make stock and everything, and use it for other things.
Mm-hmm.
Should they continue to crowdfund?
Oh, amen. Absolutely.
Nothing's stopping them from crowdfunding as long as it's a brand new project.
Yeah.
Like, for example, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean to step on you at all, Joe. I'm sorry. They have to decide. That's their number one marketing tool, though. But they can't rely on it. That's the problem. That's one of the big problems that we're going to see, especially in the next couple of years, because we've already had a couple of threats from Indiegogo that have sprung up and frozen people's accounts for silly reasons, or have done this or that. You've already seen what PayPal did to Eric July, even though he was off on his own, and they froze that money. What are you pushing that away for?
Well, because he's not the only one that they've done that to. It's not.
No, but he's made the most money for them to do that with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's made the biggest stink about it too.
That's true, and I hope he gets lawyers involved and kind of slaps their hand. But he's got enough money to be able to push that weight around. Us little creators out there wouldn't be able to do that. We wouldn't be able to afford it.
But here's the thing with Eric July. There was already in the works that they told him ahead of time. That's going to be a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
When he did what he did, now, like I said, he wasn't expecting the overnight boom that had happened.
Yeah. Yep.
But that should have been planned out. That should have been part of his overall plan. So I really don't fault PayPal per se, because they kind of give you that guideline ahead of time. Now, all the extra stuff that he's talking about, as far as the hoops and stuff, I don't know about. I honestly don't know about. I can't side one way or the other. But as far as what initially had happened about why they froze that money, that's going to be a red flag for anybody that has a PayPal account, regardless. That's nothing new up under the sun.
Well, I'm sure he didn't plan on over $1 million channeling through that.
Right.
Through that funnel. He had a couple of other funnels that he was already collecting money from as well. But I'll bet you PayPal won't see that kind of money ever go through for him again.
Mm-hmm.
Because he'll come up with every other way possible than that for it to happen. Come on in, everybody. We've dropped our viewers again. We're going to have to show off more Yabba Dabba boobs. Here we go. Don't make me load up that picture of Velma, or maybe you really want me to anyway. So
I think there might be more Velma fans.
Might be more Velma fans.
But
if you use crowdfunding, as a marketing tool, and you make $1 million, and let's say that's $1 million after the fact, couldn't you use that money to go and set up your own store? I mean, after all, you've already
that's what you're going to see happen. Yes, yeah. But the problem is the problem is also though is that you need that outside platform in order to pull more new people in. That would be the whole key. You'd want to keep the people you've already got, absolutely, but you want to have that exposure from Indiegogo or Kickstarter or Zoop even in order to go out there and try to bring in even more people in. And to widen your market. We're being joined now by Joseph A. Michael. Sorry, if you thought it was Scott Rosema, you're wrong.
Suckers.
It's actually Joe Michael. Sorry, Brian, you're out. I think Brian lost that last quarter. Oh, we've only got one more quarter to go. Joe, you're here for the last few minutes of the show. We've been talking about a lot of different stuff, so jump in whenever you want.
I heard something about $1 million Kickstarter. I was intrigued.
Well, no. Well, my point being is this: if it's crowdfunding, it's to set up. It's like investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get the investments, and you go and you set up your store, you set up your product, and then you spend it to go towards future product, right? So my point is, if you make $1 million to start your store, your business, do you really need to crowdfund your next book?
and technically, like I said, it's like if it's a brand new project, why not? But here's the $1 million question that I always ask everybody who is pro crowdfunding. And if I solve it, I know I'm going to make $1 billion off of it. It's like, how do you truly reach the cold audience? You cannot reach a cold audience on a crowdfunding campaign. Everybody has to know you in some form, in some fashion.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it's being used so much is because that tool itself is a great distribution tool.
Yes.
It makes it easy on the creator. However, what people don't talk about within, and I hate to use Randy's favorite word, the community, is that from issue number 1 to issue number 2, there's a drop off. From issue 2 to issue 3, there's another big drop off. So to keep those dropping offs from happening, you have to learn how to market outside of that crowdfunding platform to get new eyes on it, or else you're just going to be dead in the water. Because why? Kickstarter is not truly set up for enticing a cold audience to.
Okay. Good point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a momentum game, right? Maybe Randy, you can attest to this, doing comics in the 80s, 90s and stuff. As you get issues out, hopefully the idea is you get a backlog, a back catalog, and then your readers from issue 1 carry on, and then you launch a new series with different characters, and hopefully you carry on some of the original people that jumped on your first comic series.
I got a backlog here in my basement from like the last 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, some of the successful guys have been in comics for 10, 20 years. They've carried their fans forward from the early days to what they're doing now. And hopefully they can have campaigns like our recent book right now that's on crowdfunding. It's our best campaign ever, but it's because we've been able to carry momentum forward from the first issue, the second issue, up until the final issue. So.
Right.
Absolutely.
But it still doesn't resolve the new people coming in, and it plays into C's point. Yeah. If you made $1 million, you could have your own platform and still do the exact same thing. So why do it? Then the reason you would do it is because you already have the distribution channel already set up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you set it to where you set up a store to make money, you make the advertisement, you do what you need to do, like what you would a brick and mortar store.
Mm-hmm.
That's my question is, okay, I'm not talking about people who make $4,000, $8,000 a campaign to push a book. I'm talking about if you're going out and you've made these huge amounts of money, and there's enough to buy yourself a very nice house, and I'm not going to point fingers, but you can pretty piece it together. Why aren't you making your own store and making your own business and pushing that instead of consistently using Indiegogo or Kickstarter to sell them? You see what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you perfect, and I'll tell you why I have this idea. You take James Patterson, okay? James Patterson, even though he had a book publisher, their marketing was crap. Now, he had a background in marketing. So what does he do? He takes the advance and he puts it into marketing his book. And with that sorts, well, we see what he's at now. whether you think he's a hack or he's not, he still put that business mind to do that. So my question is, why aren't these guys, and I'm not really talking about Eric July, because honestly, I think he's kind of doing that in that sense, because it's not a Kickstarter, it's not an Indiegogo, it's a pre-order. But why aren't these big guys doing that is what I'm asking. Why are they relying on Kickstarter instead of using the money that they get? If you get 100 people to back your book at $5 and it costs you, and let's say you get, I'm doing math really wonky, right? But you get that huge amount of money and get that $1 million and from what? I don't remember, have like 400 backers. Just tell me to shut up, Randy. Damn.
No. Keep going. You're fine. I was just trying to attract more viewers.
You get it from 400 backers.
Yeah.
You get it from 400 backers. You get those books out to those 400 backers or whatever you want to do. And even though there's somebody out there that says you're actually just funding a dream, again, I'm not going to point fingers. However, you get those 400 books out to those people, but there's still money enough to produce enough to have stock to go forward. Not only that one book, but your next book also. Why are you crowdfunding and not using that money to market is what I'm saying. Because like Joe said, crowdfunding is not really a necessarily a great marketing tool.
Well, maybe like a lot of our language here in this industry, the word crowdfunding is misleading. You know, especially if you're working to front your next book to a crowd that already knows that you're there, you're still out there trying to push and widen your audience. This market, the readers out there are so dispersed, and they've been successfully pushed away by the larger companies into not reading because of a demographic that they've aimed for. Like I keep saying, the kids out there reading manga are so desperate to be entertained, they're reading books in reverse in order to get their entertainment because these big companies have dropped the ball. Yeah. Now it's up to us as independent creators to try to attract as much of that back as possible, because that's all money. And obviously there's lots of money out there to be made if you look at what Ripa's done. You just have to go out there, find it, and earn it, right?
You have to go out there, find it, and market to it. And
earn it.
Trust me, one of the things that I did my video on is like Eric July has been a avid podcaster for a couple of years. He had talked badly about this industry for several years.
Yeah.
So when he came out here and said, "Hey, I'm doing the Ripperverse and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is," he did exactly that. He knew who he was marketing to. He knew exactly who to get in contact with. He went out and got the talent that he wanted because he had an idea of who he wanted. He got it. He produced the book. And instead of doing the normal crowdfunding thing by going Indiegogo or Kickstarter, he created his own website and
pre-order.
And flip the script to make it a pre-order, which essentially what all of these other independent creators are doing on Indiegogo and Kickstarter, because technically you're not investing in a IP, you're investing in a actual printed product, which is a pre-order.
And Luke Stone Studios has also jumped off to do that, and I think we're going to see a lot of other people start making their own pre-order sites where you can just go buy their book, and from there they'll build their own stores and hopefully their own empires.
And trust me, as a person who have their own store, it's a hard task to constantly email people to tell them, hey, you can get this from the store. Hey, you can get this from my store, without hammering it home and turning them off as if it was a sales, quote unquote, sales circular.
Right.
But you have to do that with crowdfunding, though, don't you?
No, it's a difference. It's a major difference. If, like, for example, a person like me who has a back catalog, I don't go on crowdfunding and talk about my full back catalog. I only talk about the newest issue that comes out, while in my newsletter or my mailing list, I talk about everything, and I don't need to come off as if, you know, I'm like Jules with this weekly circular ad saying, hey, you can get this on sale now for X, Y, and Z.
Not everybody knows what Jules is. Sorry.
Albertson or any grocery store.
I could say Myers, and most people wouldn't know what that is either. So,
right.
Even though it's a huge box store, you say Piggly Wiggly, most people wouldn't know what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah, down here in the Southeast, we have Lowe's. So we tell people, yeah, I'm going to pick up some food at Lowe's. We're like, what?
We have Lowe's here, but they're a hardware.
Yeah. That's what most people think.
Let's just say Walmart and end it all. Everybody knows where Walmart is and what they are. Anyway, whatever. Joseph, you have a book. You're in. Have you? This campaign's in its last days, isn't it?
Yep, final week.
It's an awesome looking book, man. I've been watching.
Great looking book.
Thank you
and
so
look
much.
At that, you've gotten a few more. Oh, let me blow you up here. There you go.
Here's the first 2 issues from the book.
Look at that book.
Yeah.
Here's a funny book for folks out there. If you haven't seen it yet, go over to Kickstarter. Look for the Misadventurers 1 through 4, an all ages fantasy comic full series 1 through 4. You get a whole story.
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yep. Yeah, all 4 issues, the full story arc.
And he only has 5 days left to go. Go over there and take a look at that. Take a look at the artwork there. Just some phenomenal stuff. Well worth your time. Lots of fun. It's a little bit of old 50s Ratfink looking stuff there too. Just all sorts of old animation stuff. Just great classic material. What's it about, Joseph?
We have a Viking princess and a halfling wizard that kind of get thrown to the ends of the earth, and they have to journey back home with their differences, side battle through some wonky, zany character villains, and get back in home in time for lunch. So lots of fun with the animation style, the expressions. Characters all have unique personalities. Our villains are like rockin' redwoods and abominable snow babies, and country pumpkins and a sandwich. Lots of fun stuff. So
great imaginative stuff that you can even read to your kids.
Yep.
So who did the artwork?
Nicholas Torres. He's an Argentinian illustrator. He's worked on a lot of Source Point Press books and other indie books. And he colors. He does the line art and everything too. So he's got a very manga and animation influenced art style.
Yes, he does. Very good. I'd love to see him do some HeroBot stuff one of these days. Just some great stuff. Final week, folks. The Misadventurers, an all-age fantasy comic. Right there now over on Kickstarter. Good for kids 6 and up. But everybody can read it. Looks like fun.
Kids,
go over there and take a look.
Touch that. That'd be mine.
Joseph, let folks know if there's anywhere else they can get a hold of you that you want them to contact you through.
Any of the socials at Joseph A. Michael. And then, we're running our Misadventures campaign until August 30th. We're throwing everything in but the kitchen sink. We got about 100 watchers that aren't backers yet. So we're trying to encourage everyone to come off the sidelines, back the campaign, because this is the last time you'll have a chance to grab the comic book issues for the series.
5 days, and then it's gone forever.
Yep.
There we are. Folks, get in on it now. Mitch, tell folks how they can find you.
You can find me at Linktree/Celtic Cross Studios. And hopefully with that woman.
Every time I do that, the watchers go up for some reason. It's crazy.
There you can find my website, my online comics, my online store, my socials, everything. And coming soon, a blog.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's just some,
what you going to call it?
Yeah, don't know yet. Well, one, I have to figure out what's going to go on it, because Yeah, because no one wants to read me rant for paragraphs on end, so I have to figure out what's going on it. But yeah.
No, but they'll sit and watch a video all day though. So
Oh
you
yeah.
want to get up there and start complaining. Look, it seems to have worked for so many. I thought about doing the same thing though. I don't know if I can stay that mad for that long without getting totally red in the face and going off on wild tangents. We start talking about everything that we talked about at the start of the program. Joe D. McPhee, let folks know how they can find you.
It's right there on the screen, that Linktree link that's there. Link linktr.ee/Silvo that has everything, including the YouTube, the company page, the DeviantArt sites, everything that's there. Only thing that is missing is the gaming channel, which I normally post like different gaming type stuff as a whole here. So if you get a chance, jump out there to the company website, look at our company store. We got all our books out there. If you missed our issue 7 campaign, the issue 7 books are out there as of right now. So you can always pick those up at any given time here. So, and also, I forgot what I'm supposed to do this Saturday, but our next episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher is this Saturday at 9:00 Central Standard Time, right here on YouTube.
Cool. Sweet. C, let folks know how they can find you.
Oh, as always, you can find me on my Linktree, which will send you to my profile page, to my Facebook, to my Twitter, all that good stuff. The next time you get to see my pretty face will be Saturday mornings on Sketchy Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, over there with Mike, Jimmy, Marv V, Rodney Fike, and the great John Celestri.
That was HR from the Indie Comics Network yelling at you, "Don't lie." Is that what she said?
I don't know what she said. I don't listen to her.
All right.
She needs to be doing her work. I don't know what she's worried about me for.
That's when the hammer flies and hits him in the head.
That's it.
Shoe. It's actually a shoe.
And then, of course, you catch me here on the ICN, the Indie Comic Network, next Tuesday at Dispatches from Outside the Box, usually with Mitch and Randy, where we discuss all sorts of things to inspire you to create outside the box. This week, we're going to be discussing furries. So tune in.
I heard that.
Somebody's happy.
That excited HR right there. Furries, of course.
Standards and practices approved.
Yeah, right.
Great. Hey, folks, I've been your host, Randy Zimmerman. You can find me on Facebook. If you don't go to Twitter, I got a page there. I never go there because Twitter is a cesspool of hate. But you can find a Linktree for Arrow Comics 4.0. Lots of stuff going on. Nothing that I've posted yet, but will soon. Look at Arrow Comics 4.0 everywhere. All of the main social platforms, at least. Look for Luke Stone Studios. He's got an Arrow book right now over at his page that has a what's the guy's name? Kane and White cover. It's got a Kane and White cover. Beautiful book. It's going to be a phenomenal book. The first the first hybrid story that Luke had remastered. Looks pretty. It reads well. It's a great book. Go over there and take a look. LukeStoneStudios.com. You can find more of me on Sunday morning, where we'll do the Sunday Funnies at 9 a.m. on Sunday, where we talk positive and a little bit more lighthearted than we do on this program about this industry that we love so much, especially sequential art, especially through the ages. You might think that it's all old farts reminiscing about great comics, and you'd almost be right. What did that say? Fandom what?
That's for House of Bob.
Yeah, House of Bob, Fandom Not Fetish at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time this Saturday.
This Saturday.
Yeah.
8 p.m. House of Bob. So look for that. Fandom Not Fetish. So, and you can find me again here on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the ZimmCast, where we'll talk about this industry from a more opinionated point of view. Hope you've had a good time today. We wish everybody well. Want to thank everybody on the panel. Anybody who was betting on Scott Rosema being here, this program has officially lost. Count it out. So,
does errantry being on your spinner rack count as him being here?
No, not at all. You can send all that. You can send all that leftover bets, and we'll put them in the Arrow Comics pools for future endeavors, of which there are many. So thank you very much, everybody. Before we leave, we want to point out that Meatball doesn't work that way. It's the way it is. And also, since we were showing him earlier, let's go off on the immortal words of Mr. Stan Lee, who, when asked if digital comics would ever replace comic books, he said, "Comics are like boobs. They look great on a computer, but I'd rather hold one in my hand." Wish you all well.
Another
Have a
great
good week.
work by Stanley.
If you love this industry, show your love for this industry by going out and talking positive about it to your friends, to your family. Who knows? That cousin that you don't talk to very much could all of a sudden pop up and say, "Hey, I've been reading this comic book from such and such," and literally freak you out. That's happened to me more than once. So relatives on the wife's side suddenly come up and go, "Do you collect comics? Because I've been reading these books from Marvel that are pretty crazy." Well, what books have you been reading? Because if you're reading modern stuff, there's a lot better stuff out there than anyway. Tell your friends what you love, spread it around, give comics out as gifts. Go and visit your local retailer and look through their backstock, because there's some great treasures to be found there. And of course, don't be a man baby. Just stop whining about this industry and start talking positively about it, and go out there and promote it like we all should be, and turn this what most people would consider a hobby or a silly community, and turn it into an industry. Make it strong, give people livings, and just
Make
keep
money
growing
off of true investments.
Yep. Invest. It's like stocks. It's crazy. You start watching them videos. That's a rabbit hole on YouTube alone. I'm just looking at slabbed books alone, watching Comic Tom talking about all the great stuff. Only he's got to pull his microphone in and try to sound anyway bombastic.
Does he do the stuff like Michael Kramer, like have like gazoos and whistly things? And
I think he tried at one point, but now he's gotten so used to speaking, and he's
Jim Kramer has it.
Yeah, naturally bombastic. So yeah,
But
that was funny. The other day I saw somebody made a remark about investing with Jim Kramer and losing all your money. Never mind. I can't remember what it was.
well, like I said, I always talk about investment. I hate speculation, and I primarily can't stand speculation with modern books. There's no money there in speculation with modern books. It has to be around. It has to have a fan base for more than just a month.
That's really the key. It has to have a fan base. Can't go out there and I watched a video on the variants the other day, and how they pulled up all the marketability on the variants, and it's like little peak and then totally flat, just crazy.
You know what they call
those
that in
variants
stock?
money don't make any money unless you're in it right at the start, and you're lucky enough to catch the one or two variants that actually become valuable, and that's incredibly rare.
There's a word for that in stock and investing. It's called pump and dump.
Yes, there is.
Yep.
That was the story behind many a comic company for a long time. Oh, still is, depending upon who you talk to. Marvel and DC do a lot of pumping and dumping.
There might be more dumping in somebody's future.
Yeah. We'll see. There's a lot of speculation out there now, and remember, when you get sources, when one guy pops up a video and says, "Hey, I talked to somebody from accounting," then you get 5 people talking up, "Hey, that company's dead because somebody talked to somebody in accounting." That's like your old gossip circles that you get out, the old knitting gossip circles where somebody said, somebody said, somebody said, somebody said. And by the time that actually gets out on your video, it's probably a totally different story than when it first started.
Well,
So
but
what might have been a problem in accounting and could possibly mean heads are rolling might just mean they wanted to know how much money they're losing so that they can chalk it off their taxes.
but for a second, let's take a look at his pattern for the past several chops that he did with the CW and the movies. He wanted to focus on iconic IPs. So there's no way. So you apply that to the printing side, and we'll see. I think we're just going to see less books.
He didn't chop those movies because he was concerned about iconic IPs. He chopped them movies because he wanted to preserve the sanctity of that individual brand.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he got a chance to take a look at that book. And I've only heard that book over the phone once. And this was about 20 years ago when I was talking to a DC editor and they said, let me see what property you could use. And I heard this thump like a phone book and fip, 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 fip. And he only got to the D's because he suggested Detective Chimp to me. You know, DC has about twice as many properties as Marvel does. At least twice as many. And they've only barely scratched the surface on a lot of these characters. And a lot of these characters are dated. A lot of these characters need to be repurposed. But you get the right talent, and that's the key. You get the right talent on these properties, and you can make incredibly viable brands out of all of these characters. You know, and there's so much wasted potential at DC, especially right now, that it's pitiful.
I wouldn't be surprised
and
if
there's
they
so
kept
much
DC.
so much more these companies could be doing to promote the art form that it's pitiful.
I
They
wouldn't
need-
be surprised if he keeps DC doing your main your holy trinity, and maybe licensing out those others, Blue Beetle, so on and so forth,
See,
out
see,
the other.
That's the problem, see, because I could come right now and say, if you had a good person who could write something that is X-Files related, guess what franchise gets re-invived? Challengers of the Unknown.
Mm. Yeah.
That modernized that particular IP to the point where you get brand new eyes on it. But
you lease out those characters. Somebody goes and revives that. Oh, guess what? Now it's become a viable option for you to be able to use. Once that license expires, you bring it back into the fold. So you've spent somebody else's money to bring up the character.
No, not with IP, because now
you know what's gonna
worry about copyrights and all this other stuff behind it.
Logically, you know what's going to happen. Somebody in accounting, not Zaslav, because DC printing is way below his intentions. I mean, way below. Somebody in accounting is going to pull the people at DC aside and basically lay down the law to them about how they need to respect the brands. They need to start coming in on a budget, under a budget. They need to show a profit within the next 2 to 3 years, and they need to make an entertaining product. That's going to be the big edict down there. And any of those properties, you could give me 6 DC properties right now, even 10, let's say 10, and I can turn a company out that's making more money than they're making now. I promise you I could do that. And I'm not alone. There's a ton of people out there now that would love to sink their teeth into any of these properties. DC, the people up there just have to be open to experiment, to try different ideas, to try different formats, to try different outlets. And they should have a budget in order to be a nice enough budget to be able to do that and to afford quality people who can do it for them. And it's a travesty right now that these companies, these printing companies, aren't getting more respect and being watched over more by the people who really should be caring about their brands. Because it's obvious everybody up there in publishing right now doesn't care, and the corporations don't give a crap about what they're doing because they're letting them do whatever they want. You know, and there's so much stuff. There's a backlog, especially at DC. You could make that. They did those 100-page spectaculars for Walmart, for example. You could cut those down, still have them 100 pages, cut the size down on them, still print them in newsprint, charge a decent price for them. Look, Archie made a living, or is still making a living off of doing digests for those grocery stores. Yeah. That's a hell of a Josie.
There you go, Randy.
Yeah.
Josie number 15.
Yeah. Look at that monster. That's awesome.
Yeah. And this is an old one. This is issue 15 from, I think it's like 1957 or something like that.
Yeah, sounds about right. There's so much more that they could do if they wanted to. They just would have to want to, you know. So much abuse, and all it takes is a couple of creative people to take any of them properties around and make it a major brand.
1965.
You know, Jonah Hex should be a major brand. Spectre should be a major brand. Mr. E should be a major brand. Dr. Fate should definitely be a major brand with a regular title.
The Creeper.
Dial H for Hero.
Creeper definitely should be a major brain. Man-Bat should definitely be a major brain. A hell of a character. All just looked over and just pooped on and smeared around the walls of the offices and just treated like crap.
Yep. Dial H for Hero. There's another one.
Another good one.
They did a great Vertigo series based on that I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, they had a great run in Adventure Comics where they were having people send in their characters.
Blackhawks need to make a comeback, make it modern military.
Well, somebody out there needs to do Plastic Man properly, and they never will, because they, and Ethan's got a story about that where he was up in the offices and all Jim Lee wanted to know is how the guy's powers works logically. And it's a character you're not supposed to apply logic to.
It kind of defeats the purpose of Plastic Man.
It's trying to make Shazam make sense. Captain Marvel, Billy Bats. It's not supposed to. Why is there a talking tiger? That doesn't make sense.
I mean, Jay did the greatest thing for Plastic Man as far as story is concerned.
Who?
They made him an immortal.
Oh, well, that's just don't make it realistic. That's all you got to do.
Well, that's the thing. In making him realistic, they made him immortal because they did something to him where he got shattered into different pieces and left at Atlantis in the water, and eventually he was able to reform himself after several years. I was up there like, wow, that's a great power for him to have.
Go back and read those Jack Cole.
The right writer with the silliness.
Yeah. Go out and read those Jack Cole stories and weep. That's what I do. So I just weep that nobody in up there wants to handle the character like that, because that was solid genius what Jack Cole ended up doing.
Kyle Baker did a good job, I thought. I mean, he was nowhere near Jack Cole, obviously, but his style of storytelling, I thought, fit the character for what they did with him.
Well, Kyle's underused anyway. He's just an amazing creator in general. He could take whatever he wants and do a great work with it. He just, they just need to let him go. Nowadays, they probably can't afford it with their budget.
Yeah,
is what the problem is. So, right, everybody, we're running over. So there you go. If you had Scott Rosema showing up 15 minutes after the show was supposed to end, you lost that too. So if only there was an actual dollar amount, we could throw it into the Arrow Comics coffers and use it for seed money. It would be great. Right, everybody, take care. Any last words? I think we've said enough. Meatball says doesn't work that way. You already said that.
What about the king?
The king is not here.
Oh, he's not there. Not here today.
No, no, he's not here today. We do want to point out, if you go over to Gemini Comics Supply and on your way out the door, use that outdated code Ragin2. RAGIN, you'll still get 5% off your Gemini mailer order. So go over there and take advantage of that before it's gone. There we are. We are now part of the Indie Comics Network, ICN. So look us up on YouTube. Go over there, like and subscribe. We need you over there because we're building up all of our. Oh, Joe just dropped out. Sorry, Joe. Come back.
Not
Joe.
you, the other Joe.
not you, Joe McPhee.
Right.
You must have got fed up. Donatello, Joe.
Yes.
All right. Well, fine. I'll take his thing off the green room. All right. We'll see everybody soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
And let's go out with the outro. See you. Now on Sunday mornings, longtime independent comics creator Randy Zimmerman brings to you a podcast that talks about the lighter and more whimsical side of comics, the fun side of comics. That's right. Sunday Funnies is back Sunday morning, 9 a.m. on the Raging 2 YouTube channel and on certain Facebook pages. Check it out, won't you? Special guests, great talk, and a lot of fun as we work to put the fun back in funny books. See you there. I see I'm going to have to change that closing too now.
Where do they teach you to talk like this? In some Panama City sailor want a hump bar? Or is this getaway day and your last shot at his whiskey? Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!